And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host, and I come to you live every week from Los Angeles, California. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about humanity. It's about service. It's about becoming your best you and inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show every week, but it is without a doubt always, my friends, it's your experience. My guest today is a wonderfully talented paranormal investigator, media personality, collector of all things haunted, and just one of my favorite people in the paranormal community. He has a heart as big as the world, and I'm honored to have him here. Please welcome the wonderful John Zaffis. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. Good to talk to you. I missed you. I haven't seen you in so long.
I miss you too. Why are there so many states in between us?
I know.
I feel like all of you over there are so close together, and there's like 4 or 5 farm states that separate us. But now that COVID is becoming a little bit more of a thing of the past, I'm going to make sure I fly out and spend some time with y'all pretty soon.
You got it.
So, how are you? How have you survived this time of COVID? It seems like everybody during this quarantine did something amazing, even if it was just sort of cleaning out your own closets inside of yourself. Mm-hmm. Because most of us who are busy and on the road all the time and, speaking all the time and teaching all the time and seeing clients all the time, there's never any time to just be in here and be in here. And this was really the time to do that. So what was it like for you?
It's funny that you said that because, again, too, and I've talked about this several times since all this, like you're saying, Sheena, so many of us are used to being out on the road, doing things here, there, the hustle and bustle. You don't pay attention to anything, then boom, we went into a lockdown. And right. I think, again, one of the things, I'm a very big walker. I walk all over the place. And, it even ramped up even more during that whole time framing. But it was good because I started looking at things and reevaluating things. I started thinking about the old things that I would, get involved with and, the roots to our work, in other words. Made me stop and really take that back into consideration and look at a lot of things from, that perspective. So, again, it helped me in one aspect to be able to clear things because we don't do that. We don't, but now I think a lot of us had taken that step back and we look a little bit differently now. I know I do.
Yeah.
It's more like some of the things that we were so worried about, some of the things that we let bother us, it doesn't even faze me anymore.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a simple fact of, doing that. But like I said, okay, so I'm going to go back because a lot of people don't even know this, that I used to study spiritualism.
Beautiful. I did not know that.
This is one of the things that started taking me back was this. And, going back over a lot of the different teachings and the things that were involved with it and the meditating. And it was just phenomenal because it brought so much of that back from, a good 40 years ago. And I just started reevaluating that. And I went, gee, so much of the spiritual aspect is gone now from everything. Yes. Now, when I say that, I even talk about that mainly, too, with a lot of people that do investigating. Nobody is down to, ground zero with it. people are very much again, which I'm backing, with the equipment, the horns, bells, and whistles, and
Sure.
everything.
Yeah.
But I have never lost that. Where, because people will say this when we go on investigations, they go, John, you get too quiet. You get very, very quiet. I go, because I'm trying to evaluate. I'm trying to understand. I want to know what's going on, what's happening. You know, then if we end up with some evidence, EVPs, whatever, hot, cold spots,
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah.
then that adds to the case. So again, I think that's one of the things that made me take that step back and just look at the big picture of a lot of this and realize that I've seen so much of it disappear
Yeah.
from just
Yeah.
that the basics 101 of the spirituality in it.
Well, when I always think about this, I started as an actor, and I've always been blown away when actors tell me that they're not spiritual people, although I respect anybody's right to not be spiritual, because I always say, even if you're an atheist, that's your faith. But when you act, you're doing a project with other people, like a live theater project, and you literally, open your eyes when the curtain goes up, and you close your eyes and it's going down. And that
Hmm.
time in between where you all make it work, it's almost like you're not conscious of that time. And I believe that's because spirit kind of comes in, right, and helps you through the process. It's the same thing. I feel the same way when paranormal investigators say, "Oh, I don't believe in anything spiritual." And I always think, well, what is it that you think that we are trying to capture? Because
Hmm.
it's nothing of this earth plane.
Hmm.
So if it's not of the earth plane, then what plane does it come from? I
Hmm.
think people fear the idea of something much bigger than themselves. I
Oh,
think the
absolutely.
idea that you could
Absolutely.
capture a spirit on a camera, on a tape recorder, somehow that makes it more finite and it makes it more comfortable than this
Hmm.
idea of something that's much bigger than us. But I agree with you. I think this started as a spiritual community, right? The search for life beyond death.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think we're sort of getting back to that, back to more of that spiritualism, um, many of the way that the spiritualists looked at the paranormal. And I
Hmm.
think that's so interesting that you got back to that. I was going to ask you that today, as a matter of fact, how spiritual you were. I kind of ask it almost on every show, but especially with you, because an interesting thing happened. The last time I saw you, we were at an event, and I was traveling with a very difficult person and had kind of, reached my wits' end. And I thought I have a pretty good poker face. Again, I grew up an actor. And you just kind of looked at me and said, "Do you need a hug?" Like, just out of the blue. And I remember thinking, this is a very empathic and intuitive gentleman, because you literally felt that something was going on inside of me, that I was hiding from everybody else, that I was exhausted from somebody who was very toxic. And nobody else, even people that I knew a lot better than you, did not pick up on it. Yet you did. And I've always wanted to ask you since then if you were aware of the fact that you were intuitive and that you were an empath. But I think that's what makes you a fantastic paranormal investigator. I think the best ones are those that are also intuitive and are also empathic and can feel what's going on around them. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. Okay, because a lot of times people, everybody says this to me, that we intermingle within our paranormal community, is
Sure.
that they go, John, you're a very gifted person,
Yeah.
and and I go, I don't look at myself from that perspective. The running joke with me is if anybody sat down and said, Johnny, do a reading on me, I would bust out laughing. I would.
Right.
Other people, people are good at doing that. I know a lot of people that are good at doing it. But again, my environment is something that I pay attention to.
Right.
And to me, that's a very important element in any of our lives, is to pay attention to what is happening around you, watching your circumstances. Because again, we are all born with that.
Yeah.
But yet, a lot of people tune that part out, even
Sure.
taking everything separate away from it. And I
Right.
look at it as, again, seeing it and witnessing it, that you can pick up, because there's a lot to that old saying, Sheena. You can
Yeah.
walk into a room of 20 people and you look at one person and go, I don't even want to go near that person.
Yes.
And 9 out of 10 times, you will end up hearing or finding out,
Yes.
that, okay, the reason your guard went up for, for a multiple of reasons, it does.
Right. Right. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that you necessarily need to do readings or be a reader in order to have gifts. I mean, I think I've had doctors that I knew were empaths, and I've
Hmm.
had doctors that I know have absolutely no empathy to them.
Hmm.
I had teachers that I could tell you which ones were the intuitives and which ones were the empaths and
Hmm.
which ones weren't. And now that I can pick my own life and I'm an adult, I tend to gravitate towards the doctors and the dentists and the chiropractors, whomever I'm dealing with. I like people that are intuitive. I like people that are empaths, that really kind of feel other people. To me, that's what a healer should be. You don't have to necessarily get a reading in order to be a healer, but I believe that you're very much a healer, my friend, because whomever you're around, they always feel good and they always feel healed, whether you're giving them paranormal advice or you're can you tell I have a kitten? The kitten's making his first appearance on the show after all this time. It was
You
only
better
a
watch.
matter of time.
You better watch it. They might be hiring them for commercials.
This guy will steal the show, and it will become the Cullen Clatta experience in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a reader in order to be gifted, and you just bring healing wherever you go, even if you're just at a conference dancing with people. And I think that's one of the reasons that you're so beloved by our community, and everybody sort of considers you like the second father to the community. Is that you bring that healing with you? You know.
Well, again, that's one thing that I've never again changed on. I feel, when we're all together at these conventions or, some of the different things that we do. To me, I love that. I love intermingling with everybody. I love being with everybody. I enjoy doing a lot of those different types of things. I always have, and you know, hopefully, I'll always be like that. I
I'm
hope.
sure. Yeah. So then, since we're talking about this and approaching things from a spiritual community, when you're looking at a haunted object,
Hmm.
do you feel it? Can you feel that it's haunted? Or
Sometimes,
is it
sometimes.
is it just about people tell you the stories and you can tell from the experience that they've
That
had?
it's usually no, it's usually both. Because again, too, I've been around items where people are telling me, "Oh, it killed 500 people." Okay, wow, and I'll be like, "Okay, there, nothing different to me. Nothing feels anything whatsoever." But then yet,
Sure.
I could touch something and go and just throw it right back down and go, "That's got creepy energy around it."
Yes. Yes.
So it can go in many, many circumstances when evaluating or trying to comprehend, some of the stories that are associated with haunted items. It's bizarre too. Just to, again, I look at it. Some of the stories I hear with some of the haunted items, and compare it a lot of times with a person talking about a haunting they're going through or something. What? There's a lot of parallels that
Yeah.
transpire with haunted houses, objects, land, and people.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that an object is more apt to be haunted if it's made from organic material, like say a wood guitar versus maybe like a plastic paperweight?
That I never had that question. That's a good. I like that.
Really?
Okay, now I would look at. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, here's a good thing.
Okay.
This person had a collection of leather. Uh, okay, toys. It
Okay.
was a giraffe, a tiger, and something
Okay.
else, but they were made of leather. Leather,
Right.
and the energy that was associated with those things were. It was just totally creepy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I'm thinking about it now. If you stop and think about it, you know, Sheena, think about how many original paintings that are literally haunted out there, because we know for a fact that a lot of the artists, I don't know about so much today, but years ago, they would add their blood into the paint.
Yes,
They
yes.
would, different elements. Again, parts of them are literally in some of those paintings. So you think about it with the energy transfer. So
Yes.
again, you got to. I look at it from just a wide variety of things,
Hmm.
things that are handmade. You know, uh, um, a lot of the little statues of the masks and different things of that nature that we know, especially the masks, they're made with intent and purpose behind it,
Right.
depending on the person's culture and belief system.
Sure.
So therefore, yeah, I got to agree. I think things handmade from wood or material or different things like that are probably going to have more of an energy attached to it than just a manufactured little type statue or
Yeah.
manufactured doll or something.
I feel that way even about furniture. I think that a real wood piece of furniture has a different energy than artificial or a plastic piece of furniture.
Hmm.
I think, like I was saying about music, growing up in the music world, to me, a wood guitar feels so much different than a keyboard. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? There's something about the organic energy because the materials themselves were at one point alive. And
Hmm.
I think like the leather toys, right? That leather would belong to somebody at one point. That was somebody's skin.
Hmm.
So I just consider, I think that there's much more of a, a spiritual resonance to something that at
Yeah.
one point was a living thing, be it animal or vegetable or mineral, or it's crystals, right? Crystals carry a little bit of that resonance from when they were alive.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a huge person with using quartz crystal for different things.
Yeah,
I
me
mean, my
too.
gosh, look at we have it in so many of our different appliances and different things that they
Right.
use
It's in
quartz
your
and stuff.
iPhone.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, um, I've always been very big on any of the minerals, the different rocks. I mean, my rock collection is huge.
Yeah,
I have,
mine too.
yeah, I have rocks and different quartz and all these other different things that I've just been collecting over all the course of the years. And you stop and you think about that. So many of the spiritual places they're made from rock.
Yes.
Again, how many of thousands of years? A lot of the different elements, the different rocks and minerals that have been used in different things. So again, you have to take all that stuff into consideration when looking at something and comprehending it on how things can be used for what the intent and purpose is.
Absolutely. No, that's
Yeah.
absolutely true. And you find sometimes, right, places are more spiritually active depending on what kind of crystal bed they're built on, right?
Yeah.
Areas that are built on limestone or different kinds of rocks. When I was a kid, my mom was a rock hound. What I like to now, my friend calls a stoner, which I love. And when we moved a lot when I was a kid, my dad was a design engineer, so he'd get transferred someplace that needed him, and we would move. And many things went in the moving van. Mama's rocks always went in the car. And I always was at some point, had a dog on each side of me, and my feet were up on a box of rocks in the back seat because those rocks could not go in the moving van where they could get lost. And I still have those rocks. After she passed, I took them
Well,
because they were so important to her. And that was back before, in the 70s when people didn't talk that much about it.
yeah.
You didn't hear it every day. There wasn't a crystal shop on every corner like there is now. But crystals were a living thing, right? And they have that continuing resonance. And it's interesting now how people use crystals. We're a living thing, right? To cleanse haunted objects.
Hmm.
Like a living thing with a good energy is helping to cleanse a living or non-living thing that doesn't have a great energy, or even a house, right? A
Hmm.
house is also a living thing
Hmm.
made of wood and picking up the energy of those who live in it.
Here's a good one for you. When the barn was being built on the property,
Right? Your
eh,
barn.
yeah, and as they were constructing it and everything like that, I had taken big pieces of quartz crystal and put them in the foundation of each corner of the building. along with other things that I do too. Well, then as the building was getting put up and everything, I was putting things in the wall, crystals and some religious objects and everything. I actually scared some of the carpenters. They were like, "What are you doing?" And I would go, "Well, this is," and they would just look at me and go, "All right." And I know I was trying to explain to one of the carpenters. I said, "You got to remember, years ago, it was tradition to put things in the walls to be able to help
Yes.
protect things.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very common." Yeah,
I think it's still a good idea. I think if I was building a house from the ground up, I'd put a selenite wand inside every wall
yeah.
just to keep things balanced. I love that you did that. Just mainly quartz or other crystals as well?
No, just mainly the crystal, and then some religious objects that I had
Nice.
that were blessed that went into the literal foundation of the building. And then on the first level of the barn, and then on the second level, there was a whole bunch of different things that I had put in too. But the crystals, I just basically had put into the foundation to help ground the building.
So how far is the barn from where you live?
Oh, about 20 feet.
Oh my goodness, that's close.
Well, the barn is in back of the house.
Right.
And a lot of people get very confused because especially in the show, they always see me walking down the stairs to put something. So they always think everything's in my basement.
Right.
But that's actually a barn that I had built on the property, but I finished it, and it's a two-story barn. The upper level, one part of it we're in right now is my office, and the other part right now is, it was my classroom, but now it's just storage. So again, just so much stuff that has piled up. That's why the running joke with me is hoarders would love to come in here right now. They'd be able to do 2 or 3 episodes.
Right, right. Just on my crystals, I think they could do one. So, do you ever have a problem with the energy from the barn where all the haunted stuff is kind of leaking out into your yard or over into your house? I mean, do you have to sort of keep that energy at bay, or does it stay at bay with the way that you protect it when you put it in there?
I think actually both, because again, from a spiritual perspective, I have a lot of spiritual friends. You can bless the house. You can do some of the chanting. You'd be surprised. I mean, I am very much into anything on a positive. So doing it
Love
over
it.
the house or doing it over the barn, I have no qualms with. That's a continuous. It never ends.
Right.
Because our energies can shift, things can shift. So therefore, again, from a spiritual perspective, it's always good to, try and keep up on that perspective, from that too.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I think you have to, right? Because energy leaks.
Oh yeah.
It's not an airtight, if you have a body of water, a pool or a shower, sometimes it leaks. And energy can be very leaky, and no matter what you do to protect it,
Hmm.
it's amazing how energy tries to get out, right? Because
Hmm.
it wants to go out and reach whomever it's got to reach. Is there anything that just leaks too much, and you were like, I have to just get this off my property. I can't even have it in the barn. It's got to go.
There are things. Well, there's actually 2 barns on the property. There's another storage barn where there are creepier objects that I have out there that I won't bring into the regular barn.
Right, right.
So, and if anything's really too heavy duty, where, okay, it depends on what I'm dealing with and how I'm dealing with, I can either choose to bury that item, or a lot of times I'll throw into a body of water. So that is not an unusual for
Sure.
me to do that too, with certain items. Again, it depends on the circumstances, depends on what's happening, what's intertwined. It's so much that I would have to think about or take. Oh, look at me, all slouched down there, like you and I are sitting having a beer together.
That's an option.
Next time, kiddo.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I look at it, from so many levels. Just
Right.
there's so many levels that I look at so many different things depending on circumstances, because that's another thing that I'm notoriously known for, because people will say, especially everybody in my group or people that I work closely with, they go, you never know what you're going to do or what you're going to, say or how you're going to react to something next. I said, because you never know. Things shift, things could
Yeah.
change
Yep.
as you're involved with something.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, right? And I think that the more we learn about the paranormal and spiritual communities, the more we realize we have to learn, right? So
Oh, absolutely.
when
Continuous.
you think you've got objects figured out, then you find an object you can't figure out, and it makes you realize, oops, I'm out of my depth, and now I have to learn some more. And I think that's just kind of how it is. Some things are pretty constant. I grew up in a haunted house that was very negative and very active, and so many things I see now, through media, and I hear about radio shows, television shows, I read about things I've experienced firsthand as a psychic and as a paranormal investigator. It's a lot of the same stuff from the house I grew up in the 70s. I mean, some of it is very constant. It
Hmm.
is what it is, right? Negative energy is
Correct.
what it is.
Yeah.
Haunting is what it is. But I think how we look at things and how we quantify what that energy is and what it means and what might we actually be dealing with. I
Hmm.
think it's changed a lot in the last 40 years and is constantly evolving as we're learning more and more about what it is that's happening. And someday we may get to the point where we're like, there's a formula for how to take negativity out of an object, and you could open a business cleansing people's objects, John, and done forever. But we don't have that just now because we don't quite know
Yeah.
what we're dealing with.
Right. That's again too. That's why I'm very guarded, very careful with the
Yes.
simple fact of when people say to me, "Well, you are an expert." No, I'm not.
Right.
I hit 50 years this year being involved with the
Wow.
paranormal. But again, there's still things I come up against, still things I'll look at and go, you know what? Something's not adding up right because this is a continuance, like you're saying,
Right.
over and over. So you have to take that step back and look at it and go, all right, we're evaluating this wrong. We're looking at it wrong. There's got to be something else that could be in between or happening that's causing it. I think one of the
Right.
biggest things that I had a hard time comprehending and coming to terms with. There are just certain items, there's certain properties and certain people we can't do anything for.
Yeah.
There's just it is what it is, and it's going to continue. And I don't care if you call the freaking Pope in to help a person. If that
Yes.
person isn't, willing to accept that and be able to move forward, nothing's going to work. Nothing.
Yes. Yes.
So, that was a very hard thing to come to terms with, to realize that and take that step back and go, okay, it is what it is, and there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes the answer to that, right, John, is that some people are continually drawing that energy to themselves over and
Oh
over
yeah,
again.
yeah,
They won't let it go. And
right.
I deal with this with my clients, right? That sometimes that negative block that's stopping them from achieving whatever it is they want, right? Love, prosperity, happiness, health, is them standing in their own way and
Hmm.
thinking that it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, or drawing inadvertently negativity to them because they think it's what they deserve. I think there are folks that are innately fascinated by the paranormal. I think, I'm one of those folks. But I think there are folks that they like that it makes them special to be someone who's being spiritually targeted by something, and they
Yeah,
don't really want to let it go because then their
right.
special disappears, right? If the
That's right.
demon goes away, then what makes me special? So they sort of keep that energy held very close to them. And if they get rid of a haunted object, they'll pick another one up. I mean, they just the same way that somebody will get rid of a toxic ex and go right into another relationship with basically the same person.
Hmm. Yeah. Again, it's amazing to see and watch, but again, for some people, it's something they're getting that. I don't want to call it attention. They're
Yeah,
getting the attention.
yeah,
People are looking, people are talking to them,
right.
so therefore keep the haunting going, keep
Yeah,
the activity going, therefore, we're going to continuously have people coming in. But you know what I have noticed over the past 2 to 3 years is finally a lot of researchers are finally realizing, when we're dealing with a case that comes in, one of my first things I ask now is, how many paranormal groups have you had in the house already?
Yeah.
To me, again, and it's not that I don't want people investigating, but when you start telling me you have 10 to 15 different groups in your house, that tells me something right there.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
not all these people are not going to, understand or know anything about the field. So again, it's like, okay, no one can help me. No one can help me. As soon as I hear that,
Right.
it's like, okay, again, a red flag goes up and I'm going, well, why can't anybody help you?
Right.
So
Right.
again, but I have seen, which made me happy, is that there's been different paranormal groups reaching out and they'll touch base with me and go, Johnny, we heard you were involved or you were trying to help them out, and something's just not sounding right. It's just not adding up right. So
Yeah.
again, I like that, because again, not to go at somebody and not wishing someone not to get help, but when you have 20, 30, 40 people already involved with your case, how many more people you want involved?
Yes.
Again, but again, I'm seeing it and realizing it, and I think I'm saying it, that I've seen several paranormal groups just within the New England area reach out and say, hey, John, and to me, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's becomes an audience if you're lonely, right? Every weekend you have a different paranormal group in to try to figure your thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think, and this is my own belief, and it might not be anyone else's, but I have this phrase that I use when I teach, starve the dark. I think if there is something very negative in your midst and you are constantly giving it attention, you're just inviting it to be more active so it can receive more attention.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the same way that if you yell at a toxic person, it just fuels them to do more stuff, because negativity doesn't care about the difference in positive and negative attention. It's just the love of attention. So if a different group is coming in every weekend and screaming, you filthy ghost, I'm going to kick your ass. Wow, you're just encouraging that thing. Now it's on. And now you're really encouraging that thing to really show its ugly face, because it has an audience.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, all right, it is what it is. And, and the running joke with me too is when I go back and forth with some of these people, and I'm like, well, it's just a matter of time before we see that case end up on TV.
Yeah.
So,
right.
and every time I say that, I'll bust out laughing and go, okay, there they are. They got what they wanted. So therefore, it's just the nature of it, I guess, with people today.
Yeah, I agree. And then I do think that there's also that want to, maybe if it's terrifying enough, I can get ghost hunters out. And that's another kind of attention that someone needs, right? And I always kind of laugh, because back in the day when I was growing up in that haunted house, you didn't tell anybody. Don't tell your friends. Don't tell your parents. You didn't talk about it because it was like a shameful thing. I mean,
yes.
Andrea Perrin, who's one of my dearest friends, we've talked about this, and I know you know Annie too. You didn't tell anybody, because you certainly weren't going to go to school and tell your friends, hey, guess what? Cans of corn fly out of my cupboard. Yeah. Because guess who would never come over and spend the night again?
Yep.
But now it's become sort of this thing to sort of show off, like, oh, come in my house and look at the scary. And I understand that. And I understand people wanting to turn their homes into a place for paranormal groups to tour. It's a nice educational learning experience for paranormal groups, if that's what you want to do. But you're not really looking to get rid of the activity at that point. And I think sometimes when a group or someone does a priest or someone clears the activity out of a place like that, you can almost see the people kind of viscerally disappointed, John. They're sad.
I've seen it. Yeah. No, I've seen that. Yeah. And again, those are the types of situations, though. Here again, yeah, it's fine, but when they repeatedly want the house cleared, or they want to
Right.
pick and choose which Casper the ghost they want in the house. That's the other thing that cracks me.
Exactly. Exactly.
No, I
Yes.
want this one to stay, but I want that one to go. I go,
Right.
I didn't know we had those choices. No one ever told me in 50 years.
Right.
But,
Yes. Don't get rid
again,
of grandma. Don't get rid of grandma.
yeah, but again, it just blows my mind when
Right.
people look at that from that perspective. And, again, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know somebody who probably has done everything in my life, but I know someone who has very bad episodes with visitation, sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
What the psychologist would tell you is sleep paralysis, visitations in the night, and some of them are, John, they get a little rapey. And I realized at some point that this person, kind of likes it. And okay, I mean, to each their own, right? I'm not going to tell you who to date, even if it's a ghost. But I do think that you have to sometimes be aware and honest about your participation in a situation like that, and
Hmm.
whether or not you had offers to get rid of it, yet you choose not to, because
Hmm.
for whatever reason, it's what you love. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
If you want to have a real nasty demon in your house that scares the crap out of you, or dark energy, that's your business. But, you can't complain about it and also keep it around. And I think we see a lot of that. I think people with haunted houses are like the new famous people.
Yeah. Again, we continuously see these things and deal with them, and it is what it is. I used to get so upset because I think I used to be like one of those types of people, like most people. I always hear somebody, I gotta help them. I gotta help them. There's
Right.
people out there we
Yes.
can't help.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do. And I'll tell the researchers or somebody, I'll go, knock your freaking socks off. I talked to them. I tried. We did everything we could. And I'm telling you right now, they do not want it gone. And
Yes.
then finally, somewhere down the road, they'll say, John, no matter what we did, nothing was working. We finally walked away from the situation. I
Yeah.
said, you just wasted all your time, doing it. But then I have to take that step back because I was there at one time. I was always like that too. No, no, no. It'll get through to them. It'll get through to them. What?
Yeah.
There's certain people it's not getting through. That's it.
No. No. No.
Nope.
Have you ever had a situation, I'm sure you have, but I'm asking anyhow, where somebody refused to let you remove the haunted object?
Oh yeah, yeah. And a lot of times I could I don't even have an issue with that
Yeah.
because I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't want I don't want grandma's heirlooms. I don't want grandma's 5 carat
Right.
diamond. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a touchy situation with certain things, and I can understand it. And then they'll say, "Well, we want the activity to calm down." Well, put it in your safe deposit box. Put it in a
Sure.
room you don't go into.
Right.
And I'll do a binding or prayers, whatever I need to do over
Right.
it.
Get
And
it
I'll go
safe.
leave it in there, see
Uh-huh.
if everything calms down. So, oh yeah, no, there's quite a few different things. And I never often talk about this. Is very, very millionaire people. They were building a mansion. They
Sure.
bought a 1400s old church
Mm.
or a chapel, and they reconstructed it inside the house and had mega activity break out. Well, I'm going back and forth with them, and I'm saying to him, I said, probably that chapel that you're recreating, that rebuilt inside the house, could have a lot attached to it. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, well, you got to stop and think that might have seen a lot of exorcisms, a lot of energy might have been picked up on the wood. Dead silence on the phone, no pun intended. But
Yeah.
he goes, I don't even know how to handle that. He goes, I don't even know what to say about that. So, and I'm like, well, and they were very powerful, and they were Roman Catholic. And I said, can you call your priest? He said, I'm calling the freaking bishop. What are you talking about? He goes, I'm friends with him. So anyways, they came in, they did everything they had to do. But even the fact of that, Sheena, he had it dismantled and they auctioned it off. And
Wow.
Yeah, I had talked to him afterwards, and he said, John, he said, I just couldn't accept the fact of a lot of that stuff. And then he goes, clergy actually verified what you were saying.
Yeah.
And he goes, he said, I was just too, creeped out over it and everything. And I go, well, I hope when you auctioned it off, you at least, were able to make your money back. He goes, no, I made an extra mill. And I go, may I ask how much you paid for that to begin with? He said, well, removing it, shipping it over here, and rebuilding it and everything was close to 16 million.
Wow.
And I went, well, excuse me.
Wow.
But
Wow.
again, it was an extremely, extremely wealthy family.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. But what happened to the people who got all those pieces? I mean, I always worry about, well, what's going to happen to the people that I give this haunted thing to?
Okay.
Because now they're going to have it.
Well, that depends. People collect them today. People, like you and I said earlier, like the recognition of it. This had gotten purchased by a museum from him.
Okay.
So it was to be reconstructed into a museum.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's funny you're saying that, because it was odd, because he kept saying the same thing to me. He goes, I don't want to see anybody else go through anything.
Yes, of course.
And I said that to him. I go, well, you sell it off. I said, that's, something is with it and we don't know.
Right.
It's going to go with it. And he was explaining it all to me. And I think it was one of the lower bids, but yet he accepted that because he knew it was going into a museum and it wouldn't cause any other problems for anybody.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I think about that house, right? And I always tell this story that my parents moved many times before I was born. So that was my second move, but I think it was their fifth. And every house they ever bought, they would fix up themselves. I remember my mom taking a bathroom out in that house with a sledgehammer, much stronger than I've ever been. That generation was tough. And then they would sell the house for more money. And when we moved out here to Los Angeles, where, of course, the houses were so expensive, we couldn't sell that house. And normally the first house would sell before the movers even got to the new house. But that thing was on the market for like a year, and finally got rid of it at a hit. They took a hit on it. So about a couple of years ago, I reconnected with my best friend from junior high, and she now lives in Pennsylvania. And she said, I'm going to be visiting my mom and driving right by the house in Maryland. Do you want me to take a picture of it for you? Wouldn't that be funny? Because by then, I mean, we knew it was haunted. We were kids, but we didn't, I never admitted to her that my parents admitted to it. My mom did. My dad never did. But she's seen all my stuff on Facebook, so now she knows. And she went and took pictures of this thing, and it was so weird because it had like ivy grown up all over it. Like it finally looked on the outside the way it always felt on the inside. Yeah. And I was doing the pilot for Andrea's new TV show, and she said to me, the producers wanted me to get some information together on the house so we could talk about growing up paranormal survivors. And so I went on Zillow and I checked the house out, and it's literally had just sold for basically the same amount that it sold for in 1980, which is unheard of in our country. But I think it's just, it has this bad energy. And I feel bad because I think, who bought it and who lives there? And is anything happening to them? Because I feel that sort of paranormal responsibility. Like if I could pick that house up and throw it in a body of water, I would. Because there is that, right? And I would feel that way giving a haunted object to somebody too, unless it was you or it was someone who, for whatever reason, wants a bunch of haunted stuff in their house, then, go for it. But for me, there's a responsibility to passing something negative on to someone without letting them know,
It's surprising, Sheena, the amount of people that do that, though.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, again, it's one thing that we have to remember. Years ago, we looked at things differently.
Yeah.
If a person had a house and, they were trying to get rid of it, some of these poor people couldn't just walk away and, lose all the money. And it's understandable because it wasn't talked about. Absolutely. Today, it's different. Now you say you got a haunted house. As far as I know, there's a website out there
Yeah.
that just sells haunted houses.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
again, it's a different world we're in today than we were even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Everybody wants to stay in the most haunted room, have the
Oh
most
yeah.
haunted experience. And you know what? I'm not like that. I go to a hotel. I want to stay in the. Could you give me the least haunted room, please? Because I grew up in that. I don't need that. Like I'll do it when I paranormal investigate because someone's asked me to, and it's my job. But I'm not looking to be haunted in my own space. And people that like, oh yeah, I have this problem in my house now. It might be because I did spirit board, I did pendulum. I sat around on a full moon and invited demons in. It's like, okay, you're wondering why spirits have showed up. I always say that doing a spirit board in your house is like walking into a bar at 2 a.m. naked and saying, who wants to have sex with me? Like, you're going to get takers, but it's probably not the ones you want. Because
You're right.
it's insane to me to do a spirit board session in your own home because you have to have a place that's a sanctuary, right? You have to have a place. And I remember even in my house where I
People
never do
don't
it.
look at it like that anymore, though.
I
It
know.
it's a total different world because
Yep.
a lot of times today when I just talk to an individual and they start telling me 90% of the stuff that they do in their homes, it's like
Yes.
that was unheard of. No, you're provoking. You're bringing more in. What are you doing? But
Yes.
it's the nature of it now.
It's what
Yeah.
everybody wants, a house full of stuff, and then they don't understand why we're sad all the time, we're tired all the time, we're fighting all the time. When we lived in that house, my parents and I were at each other's throats constantly. I always tell this story. There were copperhead snakes, and they used to come up to the patio and knock their heads on the sliding door and taunt the dogs. Like, just everything about that property was wrong. And we fought the entire time. It was the only time in my childhood where my mom and I didn't get along all the time because we were very tight our entire lives until she passed. But during that time, there was stuff, and it was because I believe it was because of that house. And my father barely spoke to anyone the whole time we were there. He loved the house, so he had that experience where the house very much seduced him. It repelled us and seduced him, which is oftentimes the thing, right? It'll pick one person to be sort of in the eye of the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea why you would bring that into your house, but people do. And everybody's looking for answers, right? And it's okay if you want to do a card reading in your house, or you want to do pendulum to get some answers, but you have to protect yourself first. Even in a public situation like the last time I saw you at Waverly Hills Sanatorium, you're going to go into a place like that. You have to protect yourself. Human beings are fallible. Like, we have a fallible spiritual system, a fallible emotional system, a fragile body, and you need to protect that stuff before you go into a haunted place.
Oh yeah.
What do you
Yep.
do to protect yourself?
I'm very, very big believer in the power of prayer. I
I am
call
too.
upon that's what I do to help protect myself. I believe very strongly in the power of the white light.
I do too.
I
Yes.
have no, qualms or issues with any of that stuff. And if I'm with other people, again, a good example. I was just with Native Americans, Navajo, a few months back, and they were doing a protection prayer before all of us were heading out to do investigations on the property. So again,
Wow.
I participated in it, and I felt extremely, extremely very comforted by the whole ceremony. So again,
Yeah.
I believe in a lot of things that, especially when they're on a positive like that, to be able to help protect people's quote unquote energy field around them.
Oh, I agree. And we're so lucky that we live in a world where there's so much knowledge at your fingertips with the internet and
Mhm.
looking up experts about all these positive things we can do every day to protect ourselves. Um, but I think sometimes people don't think there's that whole idea ghosts can't hurt you. And that's not really true. I mean, is a ghost going to walk up to you and shoot you in the head? Well, no. But there are ways that you can get hurt without it necessarily being a physical act of violence. And ghosts can shove you down the stairs. So there are things that you just need to protect yourself if you're going to go somewhere where you're out of your element. In the same way, you wouldn't go skiing in shorts and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to know to protect yourself wherever you are, and the paranormal is just another example of how to protect yourself, right? It's another
Yeah.
place you need to know how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
So what is new with you moving forward? What are you really looking forward to right now?
Right now I'm just so thrilled to death to start getting the hell back out there. No pun intended.
Yeah,
Getting back out to going to the conventions, the locations, the end of the month. 2 locations, a theater in Rhode Island I'll be at, and old mansions in Pennsylvania, in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I'll be at a couple of
beautiful.
big old mansions down there at the end of the month also too, doing a small event. So I'm looking very forward to that. And then,
Beautiful.
getting back into going out and doing the investigations. I have been doing that now for, several weeks, trying to do catch up over the past couple of years. But again, that's really
I love
what
it.
I've been doing, and be bopping along and
Love it.
trying to stay alive here, kiddo.
You're doing great, my friend. I'm so proud of you. It's so good to see you. I can't wait to head out that way and take part in something you're doing. It would be an honor.
Definitely, definitely. Be so good to see you.
Good to see you too. Where can people find you online, my friend?
The best way to find me is johnzaffis.com, and that takes you into all my sites and my store and all the happy stuff. And
Wonderful.
yeah, tells you wherever places I'll be and stuff.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, my friend, for being here. The wonderful John Zaffis, everybody. If you missed any of those links or anything you want to hear about again that you liked on the show, I am at sheenametalspiritual.com. That's my website. It's now finished. I'm very excited. sheenametalspiritual.com. Or find me on social media everywhere, just at Sheena Metal. And included on that website are links to all of the shows that I've done here for KGRA. And you can learn more about my guests, and you can watch these interviews, which I would absolutely love. Until I see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time, my friends, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always raise your vibration, and know that you are love and you are loved. I'll see you next week on the Sheena Metal Experience. Thank you to KGR Digital Broadcasting. Thanks to John Zaffis, and I'll see y'all next time. Take care of you.